Akumah Audiobooks. You are listening to Guardian of the Portal. Book 1 of 7 in Iron Rule Collection, available on the Amazon. Chapter 1, Entering the Portal. As Mira and Uncle Roy plunged into the swirling vortex, everything around them shifted. It was like falling into a dream, colors blurred and twisted together, light flashed and then disappeared, and for a moment, Mira felt as though she was weightless, suspended in space and time. Her heart raced, her breath shallow as she gripped Uncle Roy's hand tightly, unwilling to lose him in the chaos. Then, as abruptly as it had begun, the sensation stopped. They landed with a soft thud on an unfamiliar surface. Mira blinked, her eyes adjusting to the dim light of the new world around them. The ground beneath them wasn't solid like the rocky floor of the mountain but instead felt like soft, shifting sand. It was cool to the touch, though strange ripples passed through it as if it were alive, responding to their presence. The sky, or what passed for a sky, above them was a swirling mass of green and purple, with flashes of light dancing across it like silent lightning. There were no stars, no clouds, just a vast, endless canvas of colors in motion. Whoa! Uncle Roy's voice was soft, almost a whisper, as he took in the alien landscape. Mira's heart pounded. They had entered the portal. Around them, the landscape was ever-changing. In one moment, jagged rocks appeared on the horizon, only to melt away into rivers of light in the next. Strange, translucent trees shimmered in the distance, their branches swaying despite the absence of any wind. The air was still, and yet there was a soft, melodic hum, as if the world itself was alive, singing a song only it could hear. Mira's eyes widened as she stared at the swirling landscape. What? What is this place? She whispered, her voice barely audible. She couldn't help but feel a mixture of awe and dread. It was beautiful, but it was also unsettling. Nothing felt stable here. The portal, Uncle Roy replied, though his voice carried uncertainty. It's something between worlds. I think your dad was right. This place isn't like anything we know. Mira took a deep breath and looked down at the pendant hanging around her neck. It was glowing softly, pulsing in rhythm with the strange hum of the portal. She had the feeling that it was reacting to the energy of this place, like a key fitting into a lock. Her mother had made it this far, but what had happened to him after? Do you think he made it out? She asked. Uncle Roy hesitated, his face etched with worry. If anyone could figure this place out, it was your mother. But we have to be careful, Mira. We don't know the rules here. As if on cue, the ground beneath them shifted again, causing Mira to stumble. The landscape rippled, and suddenly, figures appeared in the distance, ghostly, translucent figures that seemed to float just above the surface of the ground. They were human-shaped, but they didn't walk or move like people. Instead, they glided silently, their forms flickering in and out of focus. Mira's breath caught in her throat. What are they? Uncle Roy squinted at the figures, his brow furrowed. I don't like this, he muttered, his voice low. Let's keep our distance. The figures seemed to be aware of them now, though they didn't approach. Instead, they hovered at the edge of the shifting horizon, watching. Their presence was eerie, but there was something oddly familiar about them, as if they had once been real people, trapped here in the portal. Let's keep moving, Mira said, feeling a shiver run down her spine. She didn't want to find out what those figures wanted. The sooner they could find her mother, the better. They began walking across the soft, shifting ground, the orb from the mountain floating in front of them like a guide. As they moved, the landscape continued to change, morphing from forests of strange, glowing trees to fields of shimmering light, and then to jagged cliffs that seemed to stretch into infinity. It was disorienting, and Mira had to constantly remind herself to stay focused on the orb. But the portal wasn't just playing tricks with the landscape. The further they traveled, the more Mira began to feel a strange pull in her mind, as if the portal itself was reaching into her thoughts. Flashes of memories, some real, some impossible, started to play in her head. She saw herself as a young girl, running through the park with her mother. She saw the day she left, that last smile she gave her before disappearing on her expedition. But then, she saw something that had never happened, her mother standing in front of the swirling vortex, calling her name, telling her to turn back. She stopped in her tracks, gasping. "Mom?" "Mira." Uncle Roy called, grabbing her arm. "What is it?" She blinked, and the vision vanished. The swirling sky returned, and the image of her mother was gone. I thought I saw him," Mira said, her voice shaking. "He was right there, calling me." Uncle Roy frowned, his eyes scanning the horizon. "The portal plays tricks, Mira. It gets into your head. We have to be careful. Stay focused on the real world, not what this place shows you." Mira nodded, though her heart still raced. It had felt so real, her mother, just a few steps away, calling her name. But Uncle Roy was right. The portal was more than just a strange landscape, it was alive, testing them, pulling at their emotions. They continued walking, and soon the orb led them to the edge of a massive cliff that dropped off into a swirling abyss. Mira stared down into the chasm, her stomach flipping at the sight of it. The cliff stretched out in either direction, seemingly endless, and there was no clear way across. The orb hovered at the edge, its light flickering as if waiting for something. Uncle Roy's brow furrowed as he scanned the endless chasm. "How are we supposed to get across this?" he muttered, his voice laced with doubt. "There's no way." Mira's eyes were drawn to the pendant again, which glowed brighter now. She stepped closer to the edge, feeling the strange energy radiating from the abyss. Her heart pounded, but she knew, somehow, that this was another test. The portal wasn't going to make it easy for them. "Maybe." She started, unsure if it would work. "Maybe we're supposed to use the pendant." Uncle Roy gave her a skeptical look. "What do you mean? How?" With a deep breath, Mira held the pendant aloft, her heart pounding. The moment she did, the swirling abyss reacted, a surge of ethereal light rising from its depths. The ground trembled beneath their feet as a shimmering bridge of light began to materialize, stretching out across the chasm. Mira's breath caught in her throat. "It's working." Uncle Roy stared in awe. "I guess that's our way across." With the glowing bridge in place, they stepped cautiously onto it. The light beneath their feet was solid, though it shimmered with every step, as if it might vanish at any moment. Mira kept the pendant held tightly in her hand, focusing on the orb ahead of them, which floated across the bridge, guiding them forward. The journey across the bridge felt like an eternity, but finally, they reached the other side. The orb led them into another twisting tunnel, darker this time, with the hum of the portal growing louder. Mira could feel it now, something was drawing them closer, something important. Her mother was out there, somewhere, waiting for her. And she was getting closer. Akumah Audiobooks. You have reached to the end of the chapter, click next and continue listening. Guardian of the Portal. This story consists total of 7 chapters, as such 7 videos. Consider subscribing for more epic tales by Akumah Audiobooks and refer to channel playlist for better experience and sequence.